And now, Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. Daniel Jeremiah, joined by my good friend Bucky Brooks. Bucky, we've had a little taste of college football, but finally, the NFL season is upon us. How excited are you, man?
I'm really excited. Last weekend was a great weekend in college football, but this weekend we get a chance to see the big boys play, starting on Thursday night with the Patriots and the Steelers, and then going into the weekend. A lot of compelling matchups. And we still have the Saturday games with college football. It doesn't get better than this.
And only one episode of Move the Sticks this week. Next week, we'll be back. 2 fresh episodes. I believe we switched. We're going to start releasing one on Monday and on Wednesday. It'll be released on NFL Now, I believe. It'll also be on NFL.com. You can get it on iTunes for the audio portion, and then on YouTube as well. So we're kind of like scattering all over the place.
We're moving up. We're moving up in the business.
No question. And for people that are just checking us out for the first time, 2 former NFL scouts. Bucky also played in the league. But we sit here, we're going to talk about matchups to watch in upcoming games, going to break down position players, looking at the NFL world through a scouting lens, and also going to mess around with some college football as well.
I know, that should be fun. We get to bring our old buddy Matt Money Smith back to talk some college football.
Yeah, we've got a jam-packed show. In fact, for everything we've got, TD, you're running this ship here. Why don't you let everybody know what's on tap for today's episode?
What's going on, guys? All right, up first, we're going to do linebacker position previews, inside linebackers. We've done this for quarterback, wide receivers, running backs recently. We're going to talk linebackers today, and then we're going to look at week 1 matchups, the good matchups, the bad matchups, the ugly matchups. And then we'll move forward with some like I said, college football talk with Matt Money Smith later on in the show.
Yeah, getting the gang back together. That's going to be fun. Looking forward to talking to Money. But, speaking of college football, real quick off the top here, Buck, I don't know if you saw it, but on social media, on Twitter, and on Instagram, I put out some pictures this past weekend. Got a chance for the first time since I left Appalachian State in 2000, I played there. I had a chance to take my son, who's 11, back to App State for their opening game against Howard. And to take your son back to where you played football, it was just so cool. He got to meet my former coach, got to meet some of my teammates, got to go out in the field before the game. They let us in the locker room before he just had a blast. So what a cool weekend.
No, it sounds like a very, very cool experience. Anytime you have an opportunity to take one of your kids to a game and kind of see where you used to do your work and do your business, it has to be exciting. I'm sure they laid out the red carpet for you. You're one of Appalachian State's finest players to come out of there, so I'm sure he kind of got that royal treatment, and maybe now he's an aspiring mountaineer.
No, it was fun. He got an appreciation for the cool college town, a cool college environment. But if you want something humbling, go to Appalachian State where you played, and you feel good. Like we had some good times there. I won some big games. But I was walking around with Armani Edwards. You want to talk a small town celebrity? Go to Boone, North Carolina with Armani Edwards. What he did against Michigan. That's what you get right there.
Oh, he's kind of big time in that town, huh?
Oh yeah, no question. It was good to see him though. He's a good dude. We've had a lot of news before we get to our linebackers and break all this stuff down. More stuff on the Patriots, and the only reason I bring this up is because you have a personal connection to this story. Because now it's going back to Spygate. Forget what Deflategate or whatever. Forget that. Now it's being drudged up about what happened previously with this Patriots team. You were a member of the personnel department with the Carolina Panthers in that Super Bowl with the Patriots. So some of this stuff being drudged up is stuff you've heard before.
Yeah, because like Super Bowl 38, the Carolina Panthers took on the New England Patriots. It was my first year working with the Carolina Panthers. Excited to be in the Super Bowl. It was a team that we didn't expect would get there. But when you get there, you want to win it because obviously we all play for the hardware or are involved in it because of the hardware. And coming out of that game after it was all said and done, the players and even some of the people in the front office just felt like there was something that was odd about that Super Bowl very early. Felt like they just were in the huddle with them in terms of the anticipation, being able to know exactly what was coming. Come to find now with this investigation coming out, some of the things that they may have been alleged to do in terms of videotaping practices, stealing signs, taking play sheets from visitors' locker rooms. If this stuff is true, it's kind of explosive, but it just talks about the level of, I won't say taking it to the line that the Patriots may have been alleged to do throughout the past. I think we now kind of get a glimpse of why maybe the commissioner tried to come down so hard on Tom Brady and the Patriots, because it kind of speaks to all the other stuff in the past.
A lot of these stories that came out in these 2 articles, stuff I'd heard before, talking to people in personnel departments around the league, it's a tight-knit community. So you got scouts and executives, coaches that move on. A lot of that information gets out. My thing is, look, I do my thing, Ask 5, where I'll ask 5 executives and they'll give me their opinion on something, and I keep it anonymous because that's the only way they're going to give me information. But for this to be, taken to the next level, somebody's got to put their name on it. So, because this is coming from former Patriots coaches.
Yeah, because you always wonder,
members.
disgruntled, are they mad
Yeah.
because they were let go or they moved on in the business? So until someone comes out and says, I put my face on
Yeah.
it, I believe that we did
I was
this,
there,
and I
and
know
yeah.
I participated in this. Yeah, it's hard. Right now, it just kind of adds to the gray cloud or the dark cloud that kind of hangs over the organization when it comes to like some of these cheating accusations and allegations that people have
Yeah,
made.
look, I don't think it's going away. It just keeps coming back and coming back,
I
back.
got a
But
question for you
go ahead.
guys.
What do
We
you
had
got?
players on Damashek's show yesterday talking about how players always wanted to play for the Pats because they were winners. You guys are former scouts. Do you guys, are there scouts that want to say, I want to work for this team? Or
I interviewed there.
You did?
Yeah, I interviewed with the Patriots. So it was
how about that?
Yeah, when I had left the Browns, I had an interview with the Patriots. It was very unique. I had interviewed with the Arizona Cardinals, had an opportunity with them. I had an offset in my contract, so I was going to get paid no matter what. If I sat out for a year or if I took a job, I was going to get paid. So really all along, I'm thinking they're going to have to blow my socks off because I can stay home with my wife and kids and make the same money. But I went on an interview with Arizona, had an opportunity there. Then I went to New England, had an interview there. And it's just it's a different environment. I mean, you walk in, the doors are all closed. You can hear a pin drop when you walk through the hallways. And it was very, just very, very serious the whole time. I mean, it was it's a different place. It's a very odd place.
I won't knock it because I think what they've done in terms of their level of sustained success is fascinating. To win year after year after year and to continue to be a team that is always a contender speaks volumes about their personnel, but also the coaching and some of the things. I remember sitting maybe at UTEP. I was with one of their old college scouting directors. I want to say Larry Cook, maybe.
Yeah.
And
Larry's a good guy.
And just asking about, what is kind of the secret sauce? And he talked about, when their scouts went on the road, they went out with, homework assignments. Coach Belichick wanted to know key specific things about each player. And in my experience, that was just so different. I would just kind of come back with a lot of information. We would discuss whatever. But he would say that there were certain things that he wanted to know, and that the coach was different. Because look, we've worked for head coaches, and some head coaches aren't involved in necessarily looking at the tape and determining who can
Coach
play
Belichick
and how they
does
fit.
everything.
But they talk about how on Mondays on his bike and throughout the week he looks at college tape and really pours into it. And so I give him a lot of respect because to me he's one of the greatest coaches in the history of the game, and I'm always trying to get a glimpse. So that's why we all should tune in to Do Your Job. That's coming on NFL Network.
Nice little plug there. Nice little plug there. And Bill Belichick has coached some of the best linebackers in NFL history, and on that, I think it's time for us to jump into some linebackers, Buck.
All right, let's do it. Let's talk about some of those top guys.
Clay Matthews registered the sack. Hit again and tackled by Luke Kuechly.
Caught in the backfield, Peter Thomas, and this time the Bucks read the play and stop it, Lavonte David.
Look, Bucky, we've got some fantastic young linebackers in the NFL right now. I think it's kind of like a little golden age we could have going forward.
Yeah.
A lot of them got paid. Some of them still going to be paid. And this is what TD loves to do here. He likes to play these games.
Yeah.
So he can throw out names, and we can say, you take this guy or you take that guy. And then we get crushed. We'll get crushed on Twitter because we have left somebody out. So I'm just telling everybody that's listening right now or watching right now, if there is a name that we do not discuss in this linebacker
It's on
episode
TD.
here, it's at producer TD on Twitter. That's how you get in touch with them. So TD, with that introduction, what we got?
All right, here's what we're doing. So I love the countdowns of the versus, the matchups. So we're going to do which linebacker, inside linebacker, would you rather have? We're going to start off with two of the top in the game, Bobby Wagner of the Seahawks and Luke Kuechly of the Panthers. Who would you rather have?
All right, Bucky, you bat lead off. Kuechly versus Wagner. Who do you take?
I mean, it's not fair. In this one, I just believe that Luke Kuechly is a notch above the rest of the guys. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to let you talk about Kuechly because you do a great job of digging into it. I'm going to talk about Bobby Wagner because he's a little different than some linebackers. His range, his instincts, his awareness, his ability to control the middle of that Seahawks defense is really critical. And when you look at what he brings to the table, we saw last year when he was out, that defense was a little different. To me, he's the heart and soul of that defense, the way that he plays, the violence that he brings to the position. But there you see his ability to make plays in the passing game. They play a very simple scheme that allows their players to play fast. Bobby Wagner excels, makes a ton of plays, and really gets it done for those guys.
Yeah, look, I'm a big Bobby Wagner fan. The range laterally, sideline to sideline, is what makes him special, in my opinion. But I take Kuechly as well. I think he's the best linebacker in the NFL, the best inside linebacker, because every single box he checks. You want to talk about range, you want to talk about coverage, can you blitz, can you play off a block? And first and foremost, are you instinctive? Can you find the football? He checks every single box. He's as good as it gets. And I remember the one knock on him coming out of college. We had a personnel guy in our room in Philadelphia that tried to knock him because he had short arms. If you're a left tackle, I get it. I mean, you don't have 29-inch arms like a little, like a T-Rex. But I mean, it was no issue. It was just like, man, we're really trying to nitpick this guy to find something. He was phenomenal coming out of BC. I think he's the best in the league right now. He's going to get paid big time.
Oh yeah, he's going to be a guy that really has to. They're going to have to open up the coffers to make sure that he is compensated well. But when you go back and you look at him on tape at Boston College, made every tackle.
Remember against Miami? I remember him in coverage.
I mean, just unbelievable against Notre Dame. Once he had 19, 20 tackles and just did it over and over again. But it wasn't until the combine, because you heard so much about, he's a limited athlete, he can't run. Then he blows the doors off of everyone with his performance at the combine. You see him step into the league and become an instant difference maker. Luke Kuechly is the best linebacker in the game, and he does it week after week after week.
I think he's got a chance to be Defensive Player of the Year. All right, that's the first matchup there. TD, what we got for number 2?
Up next, 2 veterans. Navorro Bowman, back from injury this year, looked great in preseason, and then Lawrence Timmons of the Steelers. Who you got?
Go ahead, Buck.
That's tough because before this guy got hurt, he was the best inside linebacker, even better than his own teammate Patrick Willis, who people had anointed as the best inside linebacker. Navorro Bowman is the guy for me. Navorro Bowman is tough. He's physical. He's instinctive. He kind of brings that thump when he makes contact on running backs in the hole. And everything that we've seen in the preseason leads me to believe that he's going to get back to that Pro Bowl level, dominant between the hashes, is a fierce striker when he gets a chance to square up and fit up on running backs. And I like the way he makes plays against the pass. He is a guy that I think you can talk about being like one of those gold standards at the position. Navorro Bowman continues to be that guy as a veteran player in this league.
Oh, he's a stud. And when you read that Peter King article where it talks about 2 hours it takes him to just get loosened up to go out and practice, that's how dedicated he is. I mean, he's a phenomenal football player. I just think coming off that injury, gruesome injury against the Seahawks, I think range-wise, you could see a little bit of an effect this year. So going forward, I will take Timmons because I think Lawrence Timmons is going to be able to give you a little bit more range, a little bit more explosiveness, the kind of explosiveness you get from a young Navorro Bowman. I think you'll be getting going forward from Lawrence Timmons. He is a phenomenal athlete.
You know, the thing about Timmons that is really freaky to me, he's a guy that played outside at Florida State. So you're talking about an outside guy,
undersized,
would kind of rush and do some things, sometimes put his hand in the ground. But to move and stand up and play inside linebacker and still display the range and get down the seams, but make plays as a blitzer, he's a unique talent on the inside, a great player.
All right, up next is a guy we've had on the show before and replaced one of the greats to ever do it, Ray Lewis, C.J. Mosley, up against a guy who Rihanna once had as a man crush Monday, Mychal Kendricks of the Eagles. Who you got?
Wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that he had Rihanna.
First of all, real quick, TD's attire today. What you're wearing?
That looks like a members only jacket almost.
Does it say Guess?
It is a Guess little jacket.
Guess. I didn't know Guess. My older sister wore Guess jeans when I was like 1980.
He's keeping it in, but that's okay.
That's all right. I'm with you. Guess, bring it. I guess Guess is back in. What do I know? Yeah. Where are you going on this one? Mychal Kendricks, C.J. Mosley.
I'm gonna go C.J. Mosley. C.J. Mosley is a guy that I know you absolutely love him. He's one of your favorite players, not only in college but coming to the league. He's a guy that just has it all at the position. Instinctive, he's athletic, he can make plays coming up, meaning he can sniff out those screens, he can make tackles, he can make plays against the run, but also has the coverage ability that you look for. He's just a special player, a guy that has already garnered Pro Bowl consideration.
I agree with you. I echo everything that you just said about C.J. Mosley. And in fact, when we talk about Kendricks, I'm not sure. Maybe Rihanna would disagree with me, but I think we could have the wrong Kendricks on there. I like Mychal. I was there when we drafted him in Philadelphia. He just got paid a lot of money. He's going to get an opportunity to really get a lot more playing time. He's great in coverage. I think his brother, Eric Kendricks, is going to end up being even a better pro, Buck.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Eric is a guy that is natural because you're talking about that guy in the middle of the defense has to be the traffic cop. He has to be the communicator. He has to be the guy that gets everyone lined up. I think that Eric Kendricks is a guy that certainly can do that. He's shown flashes of being able to do it in the preseason. I think he continues. Mychal Kendricks is a good player, but I've heard that he's not necessarily the guy that can line it up and kind of control it and be that lighthouse in the middle of your defense.
He's a see and go. That's what we call a see and go linebacker. So he's not going to have to make the calls, get everybody lined up, just see the ball and go get it. All right, TD, so you got your Rihanna, and go ahead. What you got next?
I love scout terms, and Bucky just threw one out there with traffic cop. What is that?
Traffic cop, so the guy that controls everything, like we talk about in the middle of your defense, like your Mike linebacker, your inside linebacker is a communicator. I want to say last week we talked about how you build it down the middle on defense, but those guys that play in the middle, Mike linebacker, free safety, they have to be able to communicate. So that inside linebacker has to be able to talk to the front four, talk to the linebackers when they're checks based on formations. He has to be able to do it. So one of the things that you look for is not only the things on tape, but is that guy communicated? Like, does he feel like a natural leader when you have him?
When you look at character and intelligence when you're scouting, not all positions are weighed the same. We always said the closer you get to the middle of the field, the more both matter. When you think about it, quarterback, you need to be smart.
Yes,
you need to be
quarterback,
able to communicate. Center, you need to be smart and be able to communicate. Middle linebacker and safety. Defensive tackle, not so much. But those guys through the middle of your team, character, because they're usually the communicators and the leaders of your football team.
And if you go back to it, if you look at coaches in the league, most of the coaches in the league have played one of those four positions.
Fantastic. All right, up next, our last linebacker battle. If you're a Madden gamer like I am, you want these two guys, Lavonte David and DeAndre Levy, just because those guys got good hands, good zone coverage linebackers. Who would you rather have?
Man, this is a tough one because I could go either way, but I'm going to go with Lavonte David. And the reason I'm saying Lavonte David because I think he's a perfect fit in that defense that they run in Tampa. He's your weak side linebacker, meaning he is in the designated playmaking position. He can run through from the backside and make plays on the run. Here we see him come, deliver a nice shot there. He can make plays in coverage. He can blitz off the edge. What I like about him, he was an undersized guy that you considered when he was coming out of Nebraska, but he was very productive. He went to the right place, and because of that, you can see what this guy can make a ton of plays. He controls it. I think he's been a guy that's kind of flown under the radar. In this year's scheme with Lovie Smith calling the plays, look for him to go from good to great this season.
He's one of those guys coming out. If you were a 3-4 team, you were just like, ugh. I love him. I love him as a player. We have to figure out what we do with him. How does he fit with what we do? Similar things were said about Vilma when Jonathan Vilma came out. He ended up actually playing some snaps in the 3-4, but perfectly suited for this Lovie Smith defense. I agree with you. But DeAndre Levy, for me, you get a lot of the same things in the football player. You just get it in a bigger package.
Yes.
He's bigger. He's stronger. His instincts as a blitzer are phenomenal. I mean, he knows angles. He knows how to use his hands. He's great in coverage. And as TD loves to point out, he loves talking about DeAndre Levy's hands because he is phenomenal in coverage, and he gets his hand on a football, he can finish.
Yeah, I like what he does. He's a playmaker, but he brings all of those attributes that you look for at the position. I want someone who's active, who's aware, who's instinctive, who's physical and tough, can make plays in coverage. And this guy also has a little bit of an attitude. Part of the reason the Lions were able to have like one of the top defenses in football is because they kind of played with a different edge, a different swagger. He brings some of that because he's an edgy, gritty guy in the middle.
And he's another one, just got paid a bunch
Boy,
of money.
they're giving that money away.
Oh, my gosh. Luke Kuechly's so happy to see all these linebackers come going, and he's going to blow it out of the water. All right, let's start looking at week one here of the NFL season, Buck, and doing a little thing we call good, bad, and the ugly. I don't know how creative that is, but it's effective here. We're looking at matchups. So let's start off with a good matchup. Which matchup are you looking forward to?
Good matchup. Most compelling matchup to me is Andrew Luck going against Rex Ryan and the Bills defense. And part of the reason it's compelling is because Andrew Luck is maybe one of the best young passers. I would say he is the best young passer in the game. He has a host of new weapons. Andre Johnson coming over. You bring Philip Dorsett. So we're expecting Andrew Luck to light it up. But then you look at Rex Ryan taking over the talent that is on the defensive side of the ball in Buffalo. This could be a slobber knocker, as some would say. This is going to be a big matchup. Look, I want you to remember, Rex Ryan called the defense when Andrew Luck played the worst game of his pro career. Even though he was a rookie, look, he only completed 50% of his passes, had two interceptions, was sacked 4 times. Look for these guys to really dial up the pressure. They're going to test Andrew Luck physically and mentally with the creative schemes that they bring on.
Yeah, Andrew Luck's going to try and get the ball out of his hands very quick because it is a mismatch up front, their offensive line versus Rex's defensive line there. But look, Andrew Luck's my pick for MVP. I think he'll be just fine even against a very stout Bills defense. My good matchup, I'm going to go. Look, you're a boxing fan, Buck?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so what? I'll watch the big fights, but obviously I'm not talking about heavyweights. What are the smaller guys? What do we call them?
Oh, the little flyweights, featherweights.
Okay, so this is a flyweight matchup, and this DeSean Jackson going up against Brent Grimes.
The little guys.
The little guys battling out. You talk about speed and toughness, and man, this is going to be a fun one to watch. Grimes. He's so physical, he's so tough, and he plays, when the ball is in the air, he plays bigger than his size. He's very competitive, but DeSean Jackson has proven he can pull away from anybody. He's got a different gear than most people have. So this is strength versus strength. Two undersized guys battling each other, and I think this matchup with Jackson, the Redskins, going up against Grimes, the Dolphins, could go a long way in deciding that football game.
No, I think it is one of the best one-on-one matchups that we'll see this week. And DeSean Jackson is a big play threat. Every time he's on the field, he's a touchdown waiting to happen. But look, Brent Grimes is a Pro Bowl caliber corner, a guy that has a knack for making plays on the ball. He's going to challenge DeSean Jackson, try and get in him at the line of scrimmage. This should be a fun one to watch.
All right, now we go.
Here for you guys.
What do you got?
Based on DeSean Jackson, a lot of people saying, who runs the best 9 route in the league? Who do you guys have?
Ooh, I mean, there's a lot of different guys. You know, who runs the best is Mike Wallace. Whether or not he finishes with the football in his hands, it might be a different story. I'll tell you what, we've got a guy that's come in the league this year that might emerge as that guy in Philip Dorsett.
Oh, Dorsett is fast. He can blow the top off of defense. But I will say this, DeSean Jackson to me is the best deep threat in the game. You look at his track record and his history of delivering explosive plays. Those plays are 20 plus or more. DeSean Jackson does it. He's an outstanding route runner on vertical route.
Oh, he's got big time juice. All right, now we'll go to the bad. So we've done the good. Let's get to the bad. A bad matchup for me is in the NFC West, and that's the Seattle Seahawks offensive line. Minus Max Unger is now playing for the Saints. They haven't looked so hot in the preseason, and they're going to face the Rams. All those first-round picks, and Aaron Donald, who is just he's a bad dude.
Oh, he's a bad man up front.
What he did last year in the second half of the season, looks like he's ready to take that to the next level this year. I don't know how they block him along the interior of the offensive line there in Seattle. I think this could get ugly in that matchup. It's going to come down to Marshawn Lynch making people miss and running over people because there's going to be free men coming at him.
Oh, they're going to be free hitters all day because I think the way that Greg Williams is going to attack this Seahawks offensive line, he's going to blitz them to no end just so he can create one-on-one matchups for Robert Quinn and Chris Long and Aaron Donald on the inside. But not only that, they can keep rolling guys in. The name that people don't talk about, Nick Fairley, also coming over. Like they have some
you almost forget that he's there
on that defensive line. Just being able to roll so many number one picks out, that is an interesting matchup to watch. My matchup that I think could be a bad one, I'm going to still stick to that offensive line, defensive line thing. Washington's offensive line versus the Miami Dolphins defensive line. And part of the reason I think this could get bad for the Washington Redskins, Brandon Sheriff has to block that man. And Ndamukong
Brandon Sheriff has no anchor. That's his problem.
His inability to stop Ndamukong Suh could be a problem for them running the ball. And then when you go outside, look, I like Morgan Moses. I thought he was a good player at UVA, but I think he's ill-equipped to deal with that bad man on the outside, Cameron Wake. So now we're talking about two matchups that could really tip the scales in the Dolphins' favor. I think it's going to be tough for the Washington Redskins. RG3 may want to get ready, even though he's the number 2 or 3 quarterback.
Well, I will say this. If RG3's playing in this game, how many times does he get sacked by the Dolphins?
More importantly, how many times does his helmet pop off? Every time he gets hit, the helmet pops off.
I was going to say, if it's RG3, you're looking at an 8-sack game. I think Cousins will limit that to like 4.
He'll get the ball out.
Because he'll just get the ball out of his hands.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's going to be a pick and stick. Just sit in the gun, get the ball out of your hands because that matchup does not look favorable.
No, we may see a couple quarterbacks for the Washington Redskins. Colt McCoy may run onto the field this week.
You said that was your bad. I think that might even qualify as ugly. We'll get to ugly right now, Bucky, and you start us off. Just an awful matchup this week. Who you got?
Oh, I think this is an awful matchup. And look, the New England Patriots have been so good for so long. But look, they let all their corners go this year. Darrelle Revis, Brandon Browner. So now,
Super Bowl hero Malcolm Butler.
Malcolm Butler, we're touted as like one of the premier corners, I guess, because he made the play. But he has to stop Antonio Brown, who I think is the baddest wide receiver in the game in terms of being able to do everything. I just don't see how he can get it done. I know Bill Belichick will trick up the scheme and he'll double team him and do some things to try and contain him. It's not going to happen. This could be a 2-banger for Antonio Brown. He may get 200 yards on the New England Patriots this week because I don't think Malcolm Butler can stay close to him if they play one-on-one. I just don't see it happening.
And then if people are listening to this after the Thursday night game, if Bucky called his shot right now, please send him a note on Twitter. I can attest to the fact that this was recorded before that game even took place. So send my man a shout out. Look, for my ugly matchup, I'm going to stay wide receiver DB. I'm going to go Dez Bryant, assuming he's fully healthy, which sounds like he will be, going up against the Giants. He torched them last year. DRC, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, Prince Amukamara, good luck. I don't know how you're going to do it because you're not going to be able to get much help over the top because you're going to need to put those resources down in the box to slow down, it looks like McFadden or whoever's running the ball for the Cowboys in that offensive line. So You got to sit out there, pick your poison with one of these two corners, and let them roll. I think Dez has a huge game.
This is one because I feel bad because I agree this matchup is certainly going in the Cowboys' favor in terms of being able to match up outside Dez Bryant versus either one of those corners. The thing that I'm troubled about, it means I'm going to have to watch my little man throw up the X all night. He's going to be throwing up the X all night in the den. I may have to send him to bed early because he's going to be X'd out all night. I just can't see him throwing up the X all night. It may trouble me because he has his little jersey on, and Dez Bryant is certainly going to hit the paint a couple of times. This is a big matchup for the Cowboys.
I still think it's hilarious that your son just ditched Tony Romo for Dez Bryant.
Yeah, he got rid of it. He became a lover of pass catches as opposed to throwers.
From 9 to 88. All right, some rookies to watch this week, Buck. To me, there's the marquee matchup. The two rookie quarterbacks, Jameis Winston going up against Marcus Mariota. It's going to be fascinating to me because when you look at it, you've got Winston with the weapons on the outside. You've got Mariota with a better offensive line. We'll see what their run game looks like. What are these coaches going to ask these guys to do? Because I get the sense Tampa's going to put a lot more on Jameis Winston's plate than Tennessee's going to put on Marcus Mariota's plate.
Yeah, I get that sense too. I believe that Dirk Cutter's going to open up the playbook and he's going to trust Jameis Winston to make plays. I don't want to see him do this too much because it means that the offensive line is not doing their job. I want to see him get the ball out of his hands, throw the ball to the playmakers. If he has time, I think he has an opportunity to carve up the Titans secondary. But if he doesn't, I think it's going to be a tough night for Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers.
I'll say Jameis Winston throws, 2-2, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. I'll say Mariota has 1 touchdown running is going to be my prediction this game. And I think, I'm going to go Tampa with a close win, low-scoring game in this one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But I do like the way that Tennessee is really utilizing Marcus Mariota, doing some clever things, quick rhythm things, putting him on the perimeter, letting him make some movement-based passes on bootlegs. If he can stay within himself and avoid the turnovers, I think they have an opportunity.
Am I crazy, guys, for thinking Marcus Mariota is going to have a pretty good season? He's kind of quiet. He's not a body language guru like I like him, but I think he's going to be nice.
Oh, that's your guy. So you going with Marcus Mariota?
I'm going with Marcus.
I mean, I think he's a good player. I am really I'm gonna say this. I'm a guy that I didn't think that Ken Wisenhunt would really tailor his system to help Marcus out. In the preseason, we've seen him do that. Let's see what it looks like in the regular season when people start taking some of those things away. Can he adjust? Can he make some of those plays?
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. All right, Bucky, what do you got? Rookies to watch. What are you looking for?
Marcus Peters having to deal with Nuke Hopkins from the Houston Texans. I think that is an interesting matchup. Right away, the Kansas City Chiefs are counting on him to be their number one cornerback. Sean Smith is on the sideline serving a suspension, so Peters has to line up and man up against Nuke Hopkins. Nuke Hopkins is explosive. He's a terrific playmaker. I think we've seen his game go up a notch in the preseason. How well Marcus Peters fares on the perimeter really will set the table for what the Chiefs are able to do in that game.
And we talked about it in our corner episode, but patience. That's going to be the big challenge for him. Don't take the cheese. They're going to try and hit you on some double moves, and Bill O'Brien's going to take some shots down the field with Hoyer. Look, just play your technique. He's plenty talented enough, as good as Hopkins is. Peters has enough ability to be able to hang with him. Just stay patient.
Yeah, he can't be aggressive. They're going to try and catch him with his eyes in the backfield. So we'll see double moves early. We'll see some misdirection plays to try and take a shot. He has to be really disciplined with his eyes and stay on his technique to make sure that he doesn't give up a big one early.
All right, Bucky, what do we got coming up next year?
I think it's time. This was my idea because, I know you play fantasy football. I like fantasy football. So I'm always digging into the numbers and the stats to try and figure out who's that unsung hero that could have a big game. So I want to start this one out. The guy that I'm telling all my fantasy guys to go get this week, Davante Adams versus Chicago Bears. And I know people are like, oh, well, that's not an easy one. That's an easy one. Davante Adams takes the place of Jordy Nelson. Well, the reason you want him this week, last year against the Chicago Bears, Jordy Nelson, look, he had 200-yard games, had 4 touchdowns against the Chicago Bears, and they couldn't find a way to slow him down. I think it gets worse because I think their secondary is worse. Look for Davante Adams to be big. He's going to be in that number 2 role, a lot of quick rhythm throws, slants, quick outs, hitches designed to get him the ball quickly. Look for him to have a big game. I think he has 100 yards and maybe a couple touchdowns against the Bears.
That's going to be interesting in that game to watch Jared Allen rushing from a stand-up position as a 3-4 OB.
It could be different. It'll be a different
I went to a preseason game against Miami. It was weird watching him. He actually dropped in coverage, did a pretty decent job.
We don't need to see him going backwards.
Yeah.
If I'm a Bears fan, I want to see Jared Allen going forward.
With that secondary, though, they better get some heat or you're going to see guys like Davante Adams go off.
Oh, they could run free.
I'm going to give you another receiver as my sleeper for this week, and that's Mohamed Sanu of the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Raiders. The Bengals have so many weapons. They can run the ball with Jeremy Hill and Gio Bernard. A lot of the attention to the passing game, you're going to see A.J. Green demand some of that attention. Eifert's getting a lot of buzz. Mohamed Sanu's like the forgotten man.
Yeah.
And he is a very, very talented receiver. I'm not all that fired up about what the Raiders are doing in the secondary. I think they devote coverage to A.J. Green's side of the field. I think Mohamed Sanu has a sneaky good game this week.
I think he could have a sneaky good game. This is a very, very interesting matchup to watch. I think the Raiders' defense could be a top 10 defense, maybe even a top 5 defense based on what I saw in the preseason. Your guy, talking about Khalil Mack coming on, kind of being a bull in the china shop, creating pressure. If they're able to get pressure, they can kind of contain them because I don't want that secondary and coverage long. But remember, this is a personal game. Hugh Jackson comes back as the offense coordinator for the Bengals. Was unceremoniously dismissed by the Raiders after one season. He's going to come back with something on his mind. You could see Mohamed Sanu go off.
Yeah, I'm anxious to watch that. Bucky, you like reunions?
I do like reunions. I
like reunions. TD, you like reunions?
I love reunions, man. I love it. Let's do it.
What do you want to do?
It's college football 24/7. Let's get Matt Money Smith on the line on Skype.
Oh, fantastic, guys. Look at this. We're getting the band back together. It's like Murph and the Magitones, only I haven't been invited inside the studio. Listen.
Hey, Money, we hear about the power of Twitter and, could even spark a revolution. But Twitter's influence on trying to get us back together to talk college football might be the most important thing Twitter has ever done.
My measly 23,000 followers. Bucky, I think you're about triple that. DJ, you're probably, 10 times that by now. I can only imagine. I get at least probably 2 to 12 a day. When is the College Football 24/7 podcast coming back? So it certainly is nice to get the three of us back together, and hopefully we can make it kind of a regular thing,
Oh, I'm all for it. I want to start with you, Buck, on the quarterbacks in college football this year. To me, it looks like the power lies in the Big Ten. What do you think?
It's tough because obviously everyone wants to talk about Connor Cook and Christian Hackenberg, those guys being guys that are decorated. But I think if you go back to the Pac-12, there's some interesting quarterbacks to watch in the Pac-12. Obviously, Jared Goff at Cal. You talk about Cody Kessler at USC. And then, look, Burko. How can we forget Michael Bercovici at Arizona State? Wow. 3 guys to watch. I don't know when it comes to draft status, but guys that should light it up, those 3 guys should be up at the top.
I'll give Money the floor when Bercovici comes up. That's Money's guy.
Look, and we talked about this. All 3 of us talked about it on Monday because I think we all 3 expected big things out of Arizona State that maybe, while everyone's talking about USC and the amount of talent they have, that Arizona State would very quietly announce themselves as the Pac-12 team that was going to represent the conference in the playoffs. And I don't know what the heck Todd Graham was doing with Burko, trying to get him killed, running him out of the pistol. When we saw him come in last year for Taylor Kelly, it was more of a spread system where he was just dropping back and hucking the ball and using that arm strength he has. And I don't feel like we saw any of that against Texas A&M.
Be honest, Money, you're just mad because Todd Graham ditched that microphone you like so much.
Hey, listen, that TED Talks microphone very well could have been the key to his success. We saw it last night out at the U.S. Open on old John McEnroe. So maybe he gave it to John. Hey, John, I've got great success in this microphone. I want you to have it for the Venus and Serena match. All right, I'm going to go back to the traditional one. I don't know what they did. We talked to Joe Klatt yesterday, and he talked about just mix up a snap count, for goodness sakes. They were teeing off on the poor kid.
Yeah, the ref even ran in there and almost got a sack at the end of that game. It was a bizarre scene. But talking about quarterbacks, Buck, I think Cardale Jones got the start for Ohio State the other night. And to me, you saw the good of Cardale and then some of the question marks. You saw the big arm. You saw the size. That was the sneakiest 99-yard rushing performance I think I've ever seen. I went and looked at the box score. I'm like, he rushed for 99 yards in that game. How did that happen? But all the size, all the big arm, all that stuff. But then I thought he was a little bit unsure of himself. Didn't trust his vision. Was double pumping. Just to me, it looked like a guy needs to play more.
No, he certainly needs to play more. And that was the risk of taking a Cardale Jones if he had entered the draft after that 3-game stretch that he had last year. But what I liked about him, early in the game with Virginia Tech blitzing and sending pressure, the ball was coming out quick. Those slants, those quick posts. He had a couple drops that hurt him, but I like him at the position. I think he was a better fit at the position over JT Barrett. It will be interesting to see, has he developed? Because, look, they have Cupcake City for the next 6 or 7 games before they have to play a heavyweight. I think he can develop a lot in that time.
And Braxton, go ahead, Money.
I don't know if it was just the surprise of Cardale, in the playoffs and how we're watching him truck safeties on Alabama and taking Ohio State to the title. And maybe some of that newness wore off. And I don't know, maybe as a college football fan, we always want what we can't have. But I just remember that offense humming with JT Barrett and spreading that ball out. And I found myself saying, it's not for Braxton Miller. I don't know what Cardell's doing, because that dude, and you all, I'm sure, already talked about it. I mean, he was the one player to watch in that game that left your mouth agape, as opposed to Cardell, was what Braxton Miller was doing out there.
Yeah, Braxton Miller, to me, during the game, I tweeted out, this is Percy Harvin 2.0. And some people, I think, took that the wrong way. I'm not sitting here saying he's any kind of a bad kid or anything like that. The issues that Percy Harvin has had, I know Braxton is taller than Percy, but he's being used in the exact same role in the same offense with Urban Meyer. He can catch the football. The first play he made, everybody focuses on the spin move. The first catch, a low ball on a dead run, that was a heck of a catch, a heck of an adjustment. And then just the top speed. Percy Harvin looked like he was operating at a different speed at Florida. Braxton Miller, to me, Buck, he looked like he was the fastest guy in the field.
You know, I really was one of those. I wondered how the move would look, but he looked like a natural at the position. In fact, you talk about Percy Harvin. I kind of got that Antoine Randall sense in terms of
so much faster.
Yeah, but how he can go into the league and be a guy that can do a lot of different things. I wanted to see him return punts. That's the only missing element that I wanted to see. Because if he returned punts and did the other stuff that he did, I think what you can do is say, okay, you know what? We can take this guy, and I know that I can develop him in some capacity until he's ready to be a full-time player.
I talked to some scouts that went through there and said at practice he's catching punts and kickoffs and track the ball easy, very natural. I think that's what, when we get to the next level for sure, he'll get an opportunity to do that. But Money, Heisman ballot, if I gave you a top three right now, I'm guessing maybe a quarterback from Southern California will be on that list. But where does Braxton Miller slide?
Well, I mean, Braxton is, if he continues to do that, and like you said, Bucky, if he starts tracking punts and returning kicks, and he becomes that all-purpose, Charles Woodson, obviously he was a defender, but, I mean, those are the splash plays that you always talk about, Bucky. You get giant kick returns for touchdowns, especially with the schedule that awaits, and Braxton's going to fall into that top three real fast because just eye test. When you watch him, he jumps off that screen, and you talk about the quarterbacks. I mean, certainly Jared Goff put up ridiculous numbers, but you look at the competition in Grambling, and look, if Josh Rosen, I know it's Virginia, and now he's got UNLV, but then he'll get the very angry dad strength-esque BYU defense to deal with before Arizona. I mean, that's an interesting story, and I think that's kind of what we start to see with Heisman Trophy campaigns is not just the numbers, not just the wins, but storylines. And Braxton has that, transitioning from the quarterback position to wide receiver.
Money, I did not hear the last thing you said. Can you talk more into the microphone? I did not hear you quite as well.
Loud?
No. I want you to talk into your microphone that you're holding in your hand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is let's see if you can see it. I made my way. You got me on the Skype, and I stepped on, like in a very cartoon-esque manner. Stepped on, and uttered a few expletives, dad-type expletives, son of a, and picked it up and realized it was my daughter's microphone that she likes to sing in. I'm singing. I'm in the bathroom and I'm singing. So there you go.
That's good. Any other storylines stand out to you from week one, or what you're looking forward to in week two?
I'll tell you what did, and I'm just going to play amateur psychologist here for a second. We're all on the West Coast. We know the hype surrounding Kevin Hogan coming in, and sadly the difficulty he had to endure last season, losing his father, and and that was all behind the scenes. That was not a story that was made public for obvious reasons. And then we saw these stories come out, going into this game against Northwestern, and you just got the sense that wasn't something the family was real comfortable with, and even in the pieces that were trying to celebrate his father and his father's life and for raising such a great young man and what he meant, to Kevin Hogan. I wonder if that had an effect on him, because that certainly did not look like the Kevin Hogan that we saw at the close of last season, and a Kevin Hogan that I thought was going to lead this Stanford team as a very serious challenger. And maybe it's my predisposition to like the way that team plays football and that team, but I mean, it really was a flat performance against Northwestern, and I almost wonder how much that had to deal with it.
Yeah, I wonder about that too. But DJ and I offline, we wonder if we're now beginning to see the kind of the fallout from Jim Harbaugh leaving. That team didn't look tough. It didn't look physical. It wasn't slow. Dynamic. The fact that they didn't make adjustments against Northwestern, I'm now beginning to wonder about David Shaw and his ability to kind of get that offense back to what we saw. And look, I know Andrew Luck was there, but this team kind of creatively whooped you up front. they're not the same Stanford team that I'm looking at, and I'm a little disappointed right now.
I just thought overall the takeaway from week 1 is you saw the teams that could really run. Texas A&M looked really, really fast. I know USC played Arkansas State, but you could see the speed that team possesses. And then you just watch a Stanford game. I mean, I know they're a physical team. That's their brand. But, man, they look slow. They look slow on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and they've lost a lot on defense. 2 of those defensive players are going to start for the Colts week 1 of the season, so they've lost a lot on that side of the ball.
Well, and also, as much as we, talk about Andrew Luck and Kevin Hogan, just remember, kind of what got that program going. It was Toby Gerhardt, and it was that power running game, and Stephon Taylor, and then Tyler Gaffney. And I know David Shaw wants us to believe that McCaffrey can be that, but if you don't have that thumper that can carry the ball 30 times and as you wear teams down, like you said, you're not even seeing it up front, I almost wonder if that's a big part of it too. I
know. It'll be something interesting to watch with that Stanford team. I believe they have USC in 2 weeks, so that'll be an interesting matchup there at the Coliseum. Money, thanks for getting the band back together. Hopefully we can do this, if not once a week, once every other week, we got to get you in the mix.
You got it. I'm going to get back to the Ha-Ha Hut here. I got the in-between performance. I think Jay Leno's going to go on a second. So thank you guys.
Just don't break any of your kids' toys. That's all. That's all I'm asking.
Wake me up when September.
That's the one and only. That's the one and only Matt Money Smith. I would be fine if we just left him up in the background of our show, just to get some music during our breaks, our interludes here. Well, look, that's a busy show for us today, Buck. Touched on a lot of ground. We've got week 1 of the NFL season. We're both fired up. Next week, we'll be back. 2 episodes, Monday and Wednesday. You can catch Move the Sticks. YouTube, iTunes, NFL.com. Subscribe. Check us out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah. For more,